All right, guys, today let's take a look at my Red Sea Reefer 170 just to give you an update. So let's check it out. All right, guys, so this is the tank as it sits today. Again, this is the Red Sea Reefer 170 with the black stand. And this is actually a fairly simple setup. You can tell just by looking at the video here. I have a basic Reef octopus skimmer with a Rio 1700 pump in the sump area, returning water to the top main display tank. And then for lighting, I have the AI Hydra 52 HD. In the sump, there is really nothing in there besides a rock, a live rock, and some biosphere media balls for bacteria to grow on. At the top display tank, if you can see in the back, there are two J-bow pumps creating wave motion inside the tank. And I just try to keep this tank very basic and simple. So water change I do once every 2 weeks, and I do around 5 gallons. Water top off, it's about 1 gallon every 3 days. And then if you look inside the tank, I have a few inhabitants. And again, this is my holding tank or an end/quarantine tank for these tanks here. So I do have another quarantine tank inside the garage for the other tanks, but they were quarantined at different times, so I left these in here. Anyhow, these the other ones are actually in the main display tank already, and I'm getting ready to put these guys in the Red Sea Reefer 625. But for now, there's the yellow tang, the blue tang, a pair of extreme snowflake Picasso, a Melanaris wrasse, and a yellow-eyed coal tang. So the tank is kind of crowded, but the fish will be moving out pretty soon here. At least the yellow tang and the blue tang, and if I could get the Melanaris wrasse, then they're going to be moved into the 625 reefer. So I keep this tank fairly simple. I feed the tank once a day with some nori, algae sheets, and then also some pellets. I don't know if you can tell from my previous video, but the corals in here are actually growing, and I'll have to put a small clip of the tank from last year. I had a video of that last year and there weren't much in here, but this year it looks like it has grown a bit. Now, to keep up with the coral growth, I do dose. I was thinking about adding a calcium reactor, but I wanted to keep this tank as simple as possible, so I do dose, and I'm dosing about 50 milliliters of alkalinity and calcium per day to keep up with the coral growth. And it does seem like that is starting to add up in terms of cost, so I may be looking into a calcium reactor for this, but then again, I may start trimming down some of these corals and start gluing them into the display tank. So I'm still on the fence on this one. I may keep it. I may just keep the dosing pump running for this one instead of adding a calcium reactor. But for now, I do run the Coral Box doser with 4 heads on it. It's Wi-Fi controllable, and I'm currently using 2 of the dosing heads, one for ALK and one for calcium. This tank has gotten very crowded, as you can tell. I've got a lot of frag racks, a total of 1, 2, 3, 4 in here in the system. So there's 4 frag racks. The corals are actually growing to the point where they're touching each other and they're killing each other. So I already have another frag rack on order, and I'm gonna have to start spacing the corals apart from each other. In terms of refugium, I did have one at one point, but then I removed the refugium because the chaeto started dying. And I think it's because the tank is actually semi-mature and my nutrient levels are pretty controlled. And so there weren't much for the algae to consume to grow, so the algae started dying. or the chaeto, I'm sorry, the chaeto started dying. But parameters, nitrate right now started climbing up a bit, up to 10 parts per million. Phosphate started to climb up a bit to 0.05 parts per million. I keep the temperature around 78 degrees Fahrenheit, alkalinity about 8.4, pH at 8.1, calcium at 430, magnesium at 1370. So that's basically all I test for. I don't really test for much parameters, just those key elements right there. And I try to do it once a month. When I'm adjusting the doser, I'll most likely check alkalinity once a day or once every other day just to make sure that it's not dropping too low. But again, this is my simple setup. I'm just keeping it as simple as possible. I don't do much to this tank besides feed it and do the ATO and then the every bi-weekly water change. So again guys, this is just a quick video update to what I have so far on my Red Sea Reefer 170. I did frag a bit of corals, and I did cut some frags and glue them to the rocks, and they have been growing, so I'm pretty thrilled with that. But I'm gonna go ahead and start chopping some of these up and start putting them into the 625 Red Sea Reefer as soon as I can get the calcium reactor set up and working for that display tank. But for now, this is the Red Sea Reefer 170. If you have any questions on what I have here and how it's doing, feel free to leave it in the comments section below. And like always guys, if you want to follow me on this journey, go ahead and like and subscribe, and I'll catch you guys in the next video.